Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Brittany, and on this channel, apparently I only talk about my writing journey. But I do have a couple of book reviews coming, so if you're interested in anything reading or writing, I would suggest joining the Sailor Gang. You can't see it, but I have Sailor Moon behind me. So I am a researching girly. I am one of those people that if we are watching a TV show and someone looks familiar, sounds familiar, I have heard this song somewhere, I will pause the show and Google it. To the chagrin of everyone around me, of course. And because of that trait that I assume tagged to my untreated ADHD and my obsession with researching anything and everything. When I became a writer, I knew that that was going to kind of be the bread and butter of the way that I would create my stories. You see, I'm a creative, and so these ideas come to me, but they come with understanding that I've gotten these things from somewhere. I don't think I'm the next Shakespeare. I don't think I'm the next great science fiction author. I think I'm someone that consumes a lot of media, and I take the smorgasbord of things that I've researched and I've watched and I've loved, and I create something that's wholly my own. And disclaimer, even if you are doing something that someone else has done, no one can do it the same way that you do, so it's still yours. Write another Twilight book. That's your Twilight book. It just can't be like Edward and Jacob and Bella. Obviously. But nobody has the sauce that you do. And that's something that I've had to tell myself as well. I think that has held up my writing process or getting back into writing, because I'm trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm trying to do something like, oh, that concept is taken, that concept is taken. But nobody can do it like you. So one of the research things that I want to talk about today is directly related to building characters. Now, I am a sucker for an amazing character, and the story can be subpar, the action can suck, but you put together an ensemble of ragtag characters with great banter and a lovable protagonist, I'm in there. And so when I started working on my stories, one of them is a fantasy and one of them is a cozy mystery. If you are new here, hi, hello, that's what I'm working on. I told myself I would not write terrible characters. I refuse. And if most of the work that I do on these stories ends up being character work, sue me. What are you gonna do about it? But with character work, I am pulling from a few different things. And because I consume a lot of Japanese media, and they are really deep with Jungian archetypes. You have probably heard that name before. I'm going to put it here because it's not spelled the way that it sounds. But there are 12 different archetypes, and the idea behind it is that they basically make up everyone in the world. So let's kind of jump into it. I have notes here, so if I'm looking to the right, it's me looking at my notes, but I just want to make sure that I get this as correct as possible based on my research. Like I said, I am not a psychology major. I am not a psychology professional. If you are a psychology major or professional and you have deeper knowledge of this, please leave it down in the comments below. I would love to hear it because, like I said, I don't know nothing. I'm just talking. So without further ado, let's jump into the Jungian archetypes. Okay, so I feel like before we can really talk about the archetypes, we probably just need to talk about who Carl Jung is as a whole. So in general, to break it down simply, he was a Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst, and he's known for making significant contributions to the understanding of the human psyche. He was a former student of Sigmund Freud, which is known as like the father of psychoanalysis, and that man had issues. And basically they had a falling out because they couldn't really necessarily agree in their theories, and so Carl Jung kind of broke out on his own. Basically, what these archetypes are. It gets a little deep. I'm going to try and keep it surface level so that it's easy to understand for those of us that don't necessarily know. But an archetype basically means original pattern in ancient Greek. So according to Carl Jung, there are 12 universal character archetypes in our collective unconscious. And the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of experiences of our species, is often impersonal and universal. So it impacts our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in ways that we aren't aware of. And symbols from the collective unconscious can often appear in our dreams, fantasies, or slips of the tongue, and can influence our personal beliefs. So Jung believed that the collective unconscious is made up of instincts and archetypes, which can be like ancient symbols like the great mother, the tree of life, the wise old man. But there are some other things that can be considered part of the collective unconscious. Dreams, rites and rituals. In phobias, it's, most children are afraid of the dark because it activates like a part of their brain that processes emotions and makes it more exaggerated because they're children. They've never been here before. They don't know what the hell is happening. So that is this idea of the collective unconscious, right? So because of that, he says there are archetypes represent the basic range of human emotions. There are 4 primary archetypes, and then there are 12 character archetypes. So we're going to talk about the primary archetypes a little bit, but my focus is going to be on the 12 character archetypes. So the 4 primary archetypes that Jung talks about are the self, the shadow, the anima, animus, which counts as 1, and then the persona. Self represents the unification of the conscious and unconscious within a person. So it basically connects their spiritual and earthly facets and then symbolizes wholeness, and then that translates into self-awareness. The shadow encompasses parts of ourselves that we choose to repress or deny. So that could be fears, insecurities, weaknesses, anything like that. So it's the dark side of our personality that we overlook. And he believes that by recognizing our shadow self, we can achieve personal growth. Next one is anima, which is male form, and then animus, which is the female form, and it represents the feminine and masculine aspects within us, respectively. And they're used to symbolize the true self and societal expectations based on gender roles. And then the persona is the mask we present to the world or how we choose to be seen. It mediates between our true self and the environment. So if you're interested in finding out your own archetypal structure, there's like an enneagram you can take, the Myers-Briggs type indicators, something called a DISC, which is dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness. I will link those all down below. These are like little online tests that you can take if you are curious to know what your makeup is. So I'm gonna put a photo of the iceberg somewhere on the screen. So just to talk about it, the tiny tip above the water is the conscious mind. The portion underwater that's still visible is the personal unconscious. And then the expanse beneath the surface is the collective unconscious. So your conscious mind is everything that you're aware of, and it's the part of your mind that controls reasoning and decision making. Your personal unconscious are the memories, thoughts, and experience that were once thought to be conscious, but have been forgotten or suppressed. So there were patterns of emotions, memories, and perceptions are tied together by one common theme. But then there's the collective unconscious that we talked about previously. And this is a shared reservoir of experiences of our species. It's impersonal and it's universal. It impacts our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in ways we aren't aware of. And the symbols often appear in dreams, fantasies, slips of the tongue, and influence our personal beliefs. They're all interconnected, basically. So to make this a little bit easier on all of us, let's talk about the 12 archetypes. And this is the meat of what I really want to get into, because this is where you build your character. You can mix and match. They don't have to be just one, but this is a list that I have used so there are a few things. When you are creating a character, one of the things that you have to figure out is, what is the character's goal? What is the thing that they want the most, and how can you prevent them from getting it? And that's how you get character growth, right? But if it's difficult for you to figure out what they would want, like you have an idea for a protagonist and she's like type A and she's sweet and she's there for everyone else, but you don't know what her character growth should be, referring to these archetypes are going to help you figure that out. This is, I think, a lot of writing, like I mentioned in the beginning, I'm a research girly, and I think a lot of writing is researching and pulling from the things you know and the things that you have learned. So I think it's really smart to look at things that have already been built for you. I think that's why fantasy is so exciting, because it's a genre that has existed for hundreds of years, and dragons and fairies and things like that, they exist in the world, and all you have to do is build off of it. This is the way that I think of archetypes as well. So there are 12 archetypes. I'm gonna go over what the 12 are and then dig into them a little bit deeper. We'll drill into what that means. So the 12 character archetypes are the ruler, the creator / artist, the sage, the innocent, the explorer, outlaw, the hero, the wizard, the jester, the everyman, the lover, and the caregiver. So before we kind of jump into those 12, I just want to talk about another kind of category split that happens. So these archetypes are split into 4 categories that can describe where their drive and motivation comes from. So there's the ego, which is someone that wants to leave their mark on the world, which is like the innocent, the everyman, the caregiver, the hero. There's order, wants to provide structure. So that would be like the ruler. There is social, who wants to connect to others. That could be the caregiver, that could be the lover. And then there is freedom, which is someone, or they yearn for paradise, or they yearn for something better. So that could be the jester, that could be the hero, that could be the wizard, right? So I'm an actress, and if you are familiar with theater or acting, and it can probably exist in other places as well, this is just kind of where I'm comfortable with it. There is fear, anger, joy, and sadness are like the 4 primary emotions. And then when you mix them together, they can create secondary emotions like confidence, disgust, anticipation, surprise. So that's kind of the concept of what this is. There are 4 categories that can kind of sum up what these archetypes are. So the first one I want to talk about is the ruler. And as I mentioned previously, their main thing is going to be control. They want to create a prosperous, successful family or community. They are known for exercising their power. A weakness is they could be authoritarian, or they could be unable to delegate, right? And some of the kind of characters that will fall under this umbrella would be the boss, aristocrats, king, queen, politicians, managers, or administrators, right? So these are the people who are in charge, who delegate, who create rules, who pass down the rules, who make the final decisions. So that's going to be the very first archetype. The second archetype is going to be the artist or creator, and their main focus is going to be innovation. But their main goal is to realize a vision. They have something very specific that they want to do. They generally have a deep pain or a deep yearning for something very specific. They want to develop artistic control and skills. That is their main focus. Some of their weaknesses could be perfectionism or just bad solution. Have you ever met someone who's like a dreamer and they have these really grand ideas, and then you're like, well, how are we gonna get there? And they're like, the creator and artist would kind of fall under those lines. So some of these characters would be artists, inventors, musicians, writers, or like I said, dreamers. Next one would be the sage, and their whole thing is knowledge. They are a self-type, and their goal in life is to find the truth. So they want to seek out information and knowledge. They are big on self-reflection and understanding through processes. Their weakness is that they can study details forever and never act. They just want to hoard tons and tons of knowledge. Raise your hand if you're one of those. Their main things, they are wisdom and intelligence are going to be their mainstream. And some of these will be the expert, the scholar, the detective, Sherlock Holmes, advisors, thinkers, philosophers, the academic, the researcher, the planner, mentors, teachers, those kind of characters. The next one is going to be the innocent, and they are big on safe. So their goal is to be happy. Their strategy is literally just to do things right. Their weakness would be naive innocence, also known as the utopian, the traditionalist. They're naive, the mystic, saint, the romantic, or the dreamer. This is going to be where a lot of people's characters start, as the innocent, especially if we're talking fantasy, coming of age, manga, JRPGs, things like that. A lot of characters are going to start as the innocent, and this is going to be someone who wants to do the right thing at all costs. Someone that I think of when I think of like this naive innocence is like Midori from My Hero Academia, where he doesn't necessarily learn that he has to be like more evil or something, but he goes from being this really soft kid who like just wants to do it right, but everything hurts and he's so small and he can't win a fight, to being like this badass, right? So that is his character journey. A lot of people are going to start in this innocent bucket. I have seen a lot of protagonists, especially if we're talking like protagonists that can't be trusted, like unreliable narrators, are not falling into this category so much, but this is probably going to be one of the most popular, starting off as the innocent. The next one is the explorer, and they want freedom. That is what they crave. They do not want to be fenced in. They want to experience a better, more authentic, and more fulfilling life. Their goal is to journey, and they want to seek out experiences, new things, and escape from boredom. Weakness is aimless wandering, or they could become a misfit because of this one. And they are big on autonomy, ambition, and being true to one's soul. So those are going to be like the main characteristics. These characters, like the seeker, the wanderer, the pilgrim. Fantasy fantasy is really going to be where a lot of these archetypes live, even though all stories use them, but just knowing like most of these are going to be kind of fantastical. So the explorer, like I said, is a soul type, and they're someone who does not want to be boxed in, does not want to fit in. So this could be not even a protagonist. This could be any character who maybe is a punk rocker in high school, or someone who is a musician. They could be the creative explorer, or maybe you have a character who their main power revolves around nature and earth, and they're likely going to fall under an explorer. If we want to talk D&D, that would be someone who's like a ranger. So there are different ways that this can kind of manifest, but essentially the explorer is going to be the character who wants to be autonomous, ambitious. They're likely not going to be huge fans of being in groups of people. They probably want to do a lot of things on their own, and that would end up contributing to their story arc, right? Where they learn to trust other people and to be around other people. And maybe being in one place is not so bad. You know, maybe this is home kind of vibe. Next one is going to be the outlaw, and their goal is liberation. So this is another soul type, and they want to overturn what's not working, and their goal is to disrupt, destroy, or shock. Their weakness could be that they might end up crossing over to the dark side or getting into crime. A lot of characters, I'm sorry, there's like, I think I got it. A lot of characters that are the outlaw, it doesn't necessarily mean that they start off doing crime. It does not necessarily mean that they start off on the dark side. This can, like I said, this could be like Huey from The Boys, who starts off as an innocent and then he crosses over into outlaws after he sees everything that's happening with Vought and the Seven, and he realizes that there is no way in hell he can beat them, trying to be the goody two-shoe Huey he has always been. So that's what I think of the outlaw. Like, it starts as the innocent and then they end up turning into, but it can also be a character that has always kind of been on the edge. So when you have a group of best friends and there's that one best friend that's kind of unhinged, very Raphael from TMNT, he never crosses over to the dark side, but he's like right there, like one bad day could send him over the edge. That's how I think of this outlaw character. Some of their weaknesses is outrageousness, radical freedom. That's what they're looking for. So this would be like the rebel, the revolutionary, the wild man, the misfit, like we talked about. This one I think is a little bit more straightforward. Everyone's kind of, the other one, sometimes it's the outlaw, sometimes it's the rebel. Same thing, same concept, same difference. The next one would be the hero. So everyone, if you are a writer, even if you're a reader, if you went to high school, you are very familiar with the hero's journey. And what that is, it is the story beats that take someone from naive, innocent, child, whatever that may be, and gets them to beat the bigger bad. So that could be man versus self. So he's fighting with himself. That could be man versus nature, where it's like a zombie outbreak. That could be man versus society, where there's like a shady government. So there are other types in there, and we're getting into real deep high school lore. But that is essentially the hero's journey. And I think we're all familiar with that. Everybody wants to root for a hero. So the hero is their goal is expert mastery in a way that improves the world. That is their first and foremost. Something that I think of is, I don't know if you've ever played the game Slay the Princess, and I don't want to give it away, but it's one of those games where there could be multiple endings and the game can continue in multiple ways depending on your choices. And the idea is like, you are the hero and your job is to slay the princess, and then what do you do from there? So you get to decide for yourself, like, I'm a hero, this is my job, this is where I'm going, or I'm a hero, this doesn't sound right. There are options for what you do, and I think that's a interesting concept for a hero character. Because they're the hero, in my mind, I can see them as unsure. You know, like, I am the hero, this is what I've been told to do, this is what my job has always been. But then what happens when the hero finds out that the government that he's working for is not as benevolent as he thought they were? Or what happens if he finds out that the person he has been sent to kill isn't who they said they were? Like, there are other ways to play with the hero that I think are really interesting. Their weaknesses are going to be things like arrogance, or always needing another battle to fight, just not being able to sit down and enjoy that the battle is over. There will always be this feeling of there's more, there's another one, I have to save more people, which is definitely like a huge character flaw, right? Like, the big battle has happened, it's over now. Something that I think of is like superheroes, like we'll say Spider-Man since he's street level, right? But he also handles like these big threats where it's like, okay, he just beat the lizard and he's on his way home, but on his way home he sees someone robbing a car. Okay, let me stop off and stop this car robbery. And then he decides he's gonna go on his way home, but now he sees like Scorpion breaking into a military facility, and so it's just like this never-ending battle that they have to fight, where it's just like there's always another fight for that. Does that make sense? So they could be known as the warrior, the crusader, the rescuer, the superhero, the dragon slayer, the winner, the team player. This could be, I like sports animes. So this could be something where, you know, they've been playing, like Haikyuu, they've been playing volleyball for 4 years. They're now seniors and they're having a really hard time letting go. They're the protagonist team of the story and they are used to winning, and they're having a hard time letting go of the fact that this is their senior year and they're done. Right? So this is like a weird way to wrap around the hero, but I think it still falls under the umbrella of the hero, right? Like they want to win, they want to do things the right way, they want to train, they want to be the best, and they also are having a hard time letting go. So next is the wizard, and they are based on power, and they have an understanding of the fundamental laws of the universe. They have a tendency to develop a vision and then live by that vision. And a huge weakness of theirs is that they can become manipulative, right? So they always want to find like win-win situations. No win-lose, no I'll take the L on this one. So this is like the charismatic leader, the healer, the medicine man, the visionary, the inventor. This is someone who is like, I will win by any means necessary. I will make it happen. I will figure out how to get there, and I'm not taking no for an answer. So this is interesting because when we think of wizards, we automatically think of fantasy. Again, we think of Harry Potter, we think of Merlin, we just think of big fantastical powers, magical powers, I should say. We don't think of the wizard and the power in terms of a regular person. Like I said, the charismatic leader. Their power is in the way that they can use their language to sway people in one way or another, which is where the manipulation can come in, right? So the thing to remember with these archetypes is like, there are names that he has given to them, that Yoon has given to them, but they're not as straightforward as like the wizard means Merlin. Now, even with the wizard meaning that can mean Merlin, even Merlin can be manipulative. I think of, oh my God, I'm such a nerd. I'm thinking of like Professor Xavier from the X-Men, right? He has good intentions. He wants to find a way to find peace between the mutants and the humans. He wants to find a way for them to live in peace. He has this team of X-Men whose job it is to try to broker peace between humans and the mutants, but at the same time, he is not the most forthcoming, right? And I think we see that in a few stories. So there's Professor Xavier. There is Dumbledore, who was barely feeding Harry information and basically like orchestrated his entire life for this very specific battle, right? So there are multiple characters we see who are supposed to be these beings of power, who are supposed to be these charismatic leaders who also will manipulate the hero or the innocent for the greater good, or for their greater good, I should say, because then there are the other charismatic leaders who become dictators and things like that, and they have used their power to essentially sway the vote in one way that caused them to be able to take over. So there are different ways that you can kind of approach the wizard character. The next one I want to talk about is the Jester, and they are looking for pleasure. They are very, you only live once. They like to live in the moment with full enjoyment. They play, they make jokes, they're funny, they're frivolous, and they can waste time. And their ultimate thing is they want joy. They want to be happy. So this is the fool, the trickster, the joker, the practical joker, the comedian. This is normally the comedic relief on the team in the show, right? It's the one who just like does not ever take anything seriously. I would put Spider-Man under this. I would put him under hero and jester. He's very much with the quips, with the one-liners. He wants joy more than anything, but he also wants to save the world, right? So he's always fighting this like, am I happy as Peter Parker? How can I be happy as Peter? And Spider-Man, I cannot be. I have to choose. But he's always making jokes, always trying to be funny, always, you know, playing tricks on the villains while they're in battle and things like that. So I would put him under this. So this is a character that doesn't necessarily seem very dynamic, but if you take a character whose entire archetype is that they want to be happy and they just want to joke and they don't want to take anything seriously. And you put them in a situation where they have no choice but to grow the fuck up, right? They have no choice but to be a grown up. That is always really haunting to me. There's this meme going around like, would you rather fight Batman or would you rather fight Peter Parker or Spider-Man who's quiet and not telling jokes, right? Because it's this unsettling of like, you're always happy, you're always talking, you're always joking, you haven't said a word, what's wrong? And it's like the one person in your life that's just always happy. And then when they're pissed, you're like, oh, don't make her. My stepmom is like that, where she's just like the sweetest soul, very, very quiet, doesn't really have a whole lot to say about a whole lot of things. Nothing really bothers her. But when she's mad, it is like, do not piss this woman off, please. And I think that's something you can do with the Jester that would be really interesting. And that would be a really interesting way to use the character who is normally the comic relief, taking that comic relief away. Something where it's like a dark comedy where it starts really funny, he's always cracking jokes, he's with the team, but then as the story goes on, these things are not so funny anymore, right? So I think that would be a very good use of this character. Then there is the Everyman, whose main thing is belonging. He wants to be like everybody else. He wants to fit in. He wants friends. Has developed ordinary solid virtues. He's down to earth. A big weakness with the Everyman is that they lose themselves in an effort to blend in for the sake of these superficial relationships. So this will be every coming of age movie that ever existed in the 2000s where they're super bad. They are dorks and they want to get invited to this party because of these girls they like. And we follow them on their journey doing the dumbest things that you could do because they're teenagers, of course they are. And it's all because they want to be liked by these girls who liked them anyway. They didn't have to go through all of this. But those are the Everyman, like your girl next door, boy next door, the guy that works all the time, the good neighbor, the one that's just very all-American, just to, you know, that Americanizes it all the way. But just very all-American, doesn't really want to ruffle any feathers, right? So they have a lot of empathy, but they do tend to lack presence. So if you start with an Everyman, you cannot stay. Let me reword that. You can do what you want. You can do what you want. I don't know any better. I'm literally just a girl. So like you can do what you want. But I would just honestly say, like, if you are using the Everyman, don't leave them there. They have to evolve. They have to do better, because I think we all in real life come to the point where we understand that like these superficial relationships mean nothing. And you just want to be you, and you just want to stay true to you regardless of the fact that Melissa down the way is not going to like your outfit. Like you cannot live your entire life like that. So the idea is that you also want to get your characters to grow in that way as well, to come to some of the same realizations you come to in your own life as you grow. The last two. There's the lover. So they're into intimacy and experiences, and being in a relationship with the people, work, and surroundings they love is like their bread and butter. They want to become more and more physically and emotionally attractive a lot of the time. This would be like Romeo from Romeo and Juliet. This is an animated character that's just like girls, girls, girls. This could even partially be like Asta from Black Clover. I am naming all the dorky things, but this could be like Asta from Black Clover, at least in the very beginning in the first season when it starts, where he has this obsession with like Sister Lily, and he's always getting upset with Yuri because he's like, all the girls like you, all the girls like you. So their weakness is going to be that their outward directed desire to please others makes them at risk of losing their own identity. So they're going to be really in line with the Everyman, but they will do anything for love. Now, intimacy does not always mean romantic, and that's important. Intimacy can be familial, it could be friendships, it could be someone that wants their parent to, who does not love them, to love them so bad, right? It could be a Akechi from Persona 5 who was initially the chosen one, but his father abandoned him when he was a child, and his father now wants him to be involved in these crimes. And so Akechi has now decided that he wants his father's approval, and he's going to go on the other side of that. And then there are consequences to that. So lover does not necessarily have to mean specifically for the same opposite sex, like a romantic relationship. It could be, like I said, familial. It could be friendships. It could be academic, like you just, it depends, right? So this could be the partner, the friend, the enthusiast, the sensualist, the spouse, the team builder. Like I said, it could be someone at work. It can be academic. It could be somebody that's always just like gung-ho and let's get the team back together. It could be the one who everyone goes their separate ways. Shaggy and Scooby in the first Scooby-Doo movie. They all go their own separate ways. They don't want to be Mystery Inc. anymore. Shaggy and Scooby are the ones consistently missing everyone and trying to get them all back together. And then when they do get back together, they're the ones that are trying to mend fences and mend those relationships. I am making the most obscure references. Give me a comment down below if any of these references meant anything to you, because I'm just pulling from the inner psyche, and it's all anime. The caregiver, and is someone that wants to be of service. Their goal is just to help others. They are always doing things for others. Their weakness could be martyrdom and exploitation, but it could also be manipulation, right? I'm going to try to find a way to explain this in a way that doesn't sound like I'm being an asshole. In therapy, I have found that sometimes the people who are excited about the fact that they don't ask for much, or who are like, I go out of my way for everyone, I do this, it is not always altruistic, right? It's not always just from the kindness of my heart. You want to be recognized, you want to be acknowledged. There are very few people in this world that go out of their way and they're like, oh, just cause, and they like, those people do exist for sure. But there are certain types where it's like they're doing it out of the kindness of their heart, but they also want recognition. So it's like, I do all this, and no one ever says thank you, like grandmas say all of the time. They're doing it because they love you and because they want this to be done, but they also want to feel appreciated, which a lot of the times they will not be, which then can create a complication within themselves, right? It becomes selfish, it becomes manipulative, it becomes like, you know, it could be another form of like, I want you to like me. I want everyone to think that I am nice, so I am going to continuously self-sacrifice so that my image is squeaky clean and everyone sees me as the nice person that does anything for anyone. And so I am being taken advantage of, but I'm going to revel in that because it gives me a sticking point, but also it gives me backup. It gives me ammo. It makes me kind of big and tall and be like, see, yeah, everybody likes me. They'll defend me. They'll have my back. You see what I mean? So I am not saying that this archetype is always manipulative, but the exploitation and the manipulation can go hand in hand, right? So being the caregiver is okay. But if you want to take it a step further, you can give them that journey where they kind of realize that that's where they are stuck, where they have been the caregiver. And they have that question, like, is this out of the kindness of my heart, or is this because I feel like I have to? Am I looking for something more? Am I the caregiver lover archetype where it's like anything for love, so I sacrifice myself? So I think that's a really interesting place that you can take the caregiver. So those are all 12 archetypes. And now that we have talked so much through all those archetypes, I just want to briefly talk about like, why is this important and how you can use these in your story. So why this is important is, I think I mentioned this earlier in the video, but archetypes can give us an easy way to connect with our readers. Like I said, I am a sucker for a very well-written character. The story does not have to be the strongest. If I am rooting for the character, I will fill in all the blind spots the story has just for the sake of my love for the character. But also it helps people connect with the story in a way. I read to escape. I don't read to beat anyone else. I don't read to read the most stories out of everyone else. I literally do it as an escape. So sometimes being able to see myself in a character who is escaping is great. I have mentioned that I'm writing a cozy mystery, and in my cozy mystery is a 31-year-old woman who gets to this point where she's just not happy with the world around her, and she decides that it's time to go elsewhere and start fresh. And when she gets to this new town, someone dies, and then that kicks off the mystery part of it. So it's just like those little things that you can self-insert, or just not even self-insert, but you can just insert these things into your story where people are reading and they're rooting for these characters, or they're rooting against these characters. These archetypes could be used in order to build a really interesting villain as well. It does not have to be the protagonist. You can put these together and make a charismatic lover villain where it's like they'll do anything for people to like them, but they don't have good intentions, right? They need everyone to like them for their bad intentions. Or they could be morally gray. I don't think we have enough morally gray characters in a way that makes sense. I feel like morally gray is always like edgy, and that's not what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a character that lives in between good and bad. So it's like what he's doing is not great, but I can get why he's doing it. Like that's what morally gray is supposed to be. It's supposed to be compelling. These archetypes can help you get there. There is also, it helps to create characters that are believable and authentic as real people. Like I said, it could be a self-insert. It could just be something that you've seen in the world that you think needs more representation. It doesn't always have to be these big fantastical protagonists that don't exist. Sometimes it can just be normal people. It could be someone in your life that has a very specific set of morals or standards, or a very specific way they handle things, and you like that and you want to turn this into a story. You want to be able to use that. So that is another thing. It can give us a blueprint for an established psychological profile. Carl Jung has done the work already, and this is just one set of archetypes. These are not the only ones that exist. So if you're interested and you want me to break down some more, or if you have suggestions for other ones I should look into, please leave them in the comments below. I would love to do so. This was really fun. But it gives us a blueprint. They're already established. Make it easy for yourself. Don't feel like you have to be the next J.K. Rowling. Please don't be J.K. Rowling. If you can be anyone, don't be her. But if you want to be anything, if you want to write these stories, if you make it easy for you, you came up with the idea, you came up with the story, you're going to write thousands and thousands of words. Use the research that's already been done. A lot of stories use these archetypes, a lot. It's a psychological profile, but it has been used in media so much that it is referenced literally everywhere. So use that to your advantage. Use it. I'm using it. You use it. You're not cheating. You're not stealing from anyone. You are taking a pre-established psychological thing and using it to create humans from what Jung has established. And that's fair game. So ways to use it in your story. So there are 3 ways. So you can choose one archetype and you can tell their story. So normally if you just choose the one, I feel like it should be a secondary or a supporting character. I don't think just using one archetype is conducive to a compelling primary character, protagonist, antagonist, whatever that may be. So like the caregiver being the protagonist's mom or grandmother or older sister or something like that, who was a part of the story but not, and they're important but they're not necessarily a main character. That is one way to use it. So if you don't want to use this for your protagonist, you can use them for your secondary characters, right? The second way that you can use it is to choose 2 archetypes, like I said, to build a character arc. So you go from the hero to the leader. You can go from the innocent to the ruler, and it gives you a starting place and an end place. And all you gotta do is plug it in between. Like I said, make it easy for yourself. There is no reason to be sitting at the computer, drinking every energy drink you can get your hands on, spending hours and hours trying to craft the perfect story from thin air, hoping that no one has ever done this before, scrapping every story because you're like, this sounds familiar. It does, because there are thousands of stories and there's really nothing new under the sun. Even if it's a concept no one has ever done before, like that story, I can't think of the book. If you can think of it, leave it in the comments below, where like the girl's husband turns into a shark. That's a new concept, but she's bound to have archetypes and story beats in there that have been done before. You just cannot reinvent the wheel for something that has been done for thousands of years. I am so sorry. Stories are universal. Stories have always existed. You just can't. You can't. Use 2 archetypes to build a character arc because people change, so our characters should change too. I was an idiot when I was 17. At 31, I look at 17-year-old Brittany and I'm like, so keep that in mind as well. Like, people change. I know everyone likes to be like, oh, it's who you always are. Like, that's bullshit. No, it's not. You're going to be different at 31 than you're going to be at 17. I'm different at 31 than I was at 29. Like, there are just certain points in your life where you just change. And when we're writing these stories and our characters are going through things, it's ridiculous to think they'll start as an innocent and end as an innocent after people have died, after their home has been burned down, after they've witnessed the fall of humanity. They're not going to be the same person, and they should not be. And that is the quickest way to make me uninterested, is to make them the same person they were when they started. Like, where the growth does not have to be intense. It does not have to be that they've done a full 180 and they're another person, but there have to be certain aspects of their personality that have changed and evolved. Because if they didn't change or evolve, what is the story about? Why are we here, right? Does that make sense? Even in a romance, there has to be growth. Somebody's got to change. Somebody's got to change somewhere, okay? And the last one is you can choose 3 archetypes and you can give them a common goal. So this is something like the Breakfast Club, the Avengers, the Persona series. So this is like an unlikely team up. This is where your ragtag group, my favorite, your like ragtag group of people come together and they have a common goal. You bring together the lover, the ruler, and the creative, and they all have to save the world from the zombie apocalypse. Something that's like that, where it's like unlikely people that would never meet under normal circumstances, and you're putting them together for something very specific. They all have a role to play. They all fill certain roles. I just said that. But they all fill very specific roles in the story. And that's really important as well. If you're going to build a team of people, you cannot build a team of type A people. Everyone needs to have complementary parts of them and then contrasting parts of them, because there also needs to be some push and pull, some give and take between them as well, because they're not just going to get together and be perfect the whole time, right? The Avengers were 4 men who were already heroes in their own right, and they did things the way that they did them, and now they have to come together as a team, which means we're dealing with egos. Who's the leader? Who's coming up with the plan? I don't like this plan. How do my powers fit complementary to yours? I don't want to use my powers. I want to do it this way. I'm not even from this planet. Like, so there have to be different complementary and antagonistic things about them. You can also, yeah, so you can specifically pick 3 that are complementary if you want it to be a situation where it's like a coven or like a sisterhood or something like that, where there are 3 different types, but they all come together as one in a fantasy story in some kind of magical way. Or you can choose 3 that are contradictory archetypes and then give them a quest, like I said. So that was the 12 Jungian archetypes, how they can be used, why they're important to story writing, and why I'm using them in my own stories. I just want to say thank you guys if you've watched this video all the way through. Thank you for everyone that's been leaving comments on my vlogs. I'm awkward and I see the comments and I'm like, oh my god, someone left a comment, and then like I disappear and I don't want to get online. But I'm going to go through and respond to all of you. I absolutely promise I'm going to do that this weekend. But I just want to let you know that I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here. Over 70 people caring about what I have to say is wild. And I just thought I'd start a YouTube channel to scream into the void, and it is so exciting to know that you guys want to scream into the void with me. So I hope that this video was interesting. It was a really talky one. It was going over some like technical things, which is probably not as exciting as a vlog, but I hope that this was helpful. And again, if you want me to talk about some more archetypes, if you want me to dig deeper into these archetypes, maybe we can pull out some specific characters. Maybe we can do a session where I create characters with these archetypes that are free for you guys to use if you want to use them. I would be happy to do all of those things. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Let me know what you would like to see in a new video, and I will catch you guys in the next one.